we're doing date nights. So every week, to get us through this, we've set aside like one night that we'll do a date night, and one person. This is with my husband, by the way. Just to point that out.
You're not on Tinder.
Yeah. Yeah. So one night a week, and one of us will cook and like kind of put it all on, and we'll, music, and just like try to pretend like, I don't know, whatever. So it was my turn to cook, and generally there's no like input as to what the other person's gonna do, but I was thinking, okay, so we do dessert and everything, like all of it. So it's all It's a big thing, yeah, it's a big production. So he's like, so Will suggested crumble, and I love a crumble. I'm not a massive dessert person, and I hate to bake. I do not like to bake, so I'm like, okay, crumble's like pretty easy in, the pudding dessert, spectrum. Like I would say it's pretty like
fruit in a topping, innit?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. Exactly. So then we're discussing it, and I was thinking I'd never made a crumble because, again, don't really do desserts. And I said, okay, well, maybe I could do like cherries. I don't know. It's like, what? No, you don't do cherry crumble. No. I was like, why not? Like cherry and apple. What about that? No, going back and forth. And then he's like, well, it would be really great if you could just like put some raisins in there too.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds delicious to me.
I know you
I am
would.
I am a 90-year-old woman, so
what an old man dessert.
I know.
I'd eat it.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Murder Friends, the podcast where three friends from three different countries talk about murder. My name's Alana, and I'm Canadian.
I'm Anna, and I'm American.
My name's Hannah, and I'm British.
So sit back and relax, you're among friends, and let's talk murder.
So,
anyone
what
done
have we
anything?
been up to?
Tell me exciting things that you've been up to.
It was my wedding anniversary last week.
Oh, congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been married for 8 years. 8 whole years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think I texted you both a picture of the anniversary card that James got me, and it was it was from Tiger King, and it was like it had Carol Baskin on it, and it just says, "I love you so much, I hope you never," and then it had in quotes "disappear," and then it just had this really unattractive illustration of Carol Baskin in the corner, but it arrived late. It didn't arrive on our actual anniversary because he ordered it online because he can't go to Paper Chase. So he made me a card for the interim.
Aww.
And I've got it here, and I'll send a picture so we can put it on a thing. But he just used memes.
Oh wow.
So he's got one that says, it's like he's got the Ancient Aliens guys, and he's made these memes himself. He didn't like copy and paste them.
Oh, so these are like new memes.
These are memes that he made himself.
Oh my gosh.
Popular meme formats. So the first one is the Ancient Aliens guy, and it's got at the top, "How do we make it to 8 years?" And then it's just got aliens underneath. Genuinely hilarious. And then he's got the Drake meme at the that Drake meme where he's like yes to one thing and then like no to the other. Then it's just like at the top it says like getting married, and Drake's doing the oh no, and then it says getting married to your best friend and reaching 8 years, and it's like the hell yeah. And it's really funny, and there's like 4 like solid gifs on there, so I'll send you a picture of that and we can put it on the social.
That's really.
But he did use Comic Sans as the font.
Okay,
so he gets purely to piss me off.
So it was like an irony Comic Sans.
Yeah, and he's written on the back, produced by his initials, graphic designs, all text Comic Sans bold, no liability accepted for injury caused by seizures from excessive use of Comic Sans. So this is probably the best card I've ever got in my life, and it's like a proper like homemade like folded A4
that is
bit of paper.
Alright, he gets massive points. That is actually better than the Carol Baskins one that he ordered.
I know.
It's not so good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like setting the bar very high now. Although you are the queen at making cards.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I like fucking around with people's birthday cards.
Yeah. So I mean, that's great. So what did you guys do? Did you do anything at your house?
No, we don't normally like do anything for our wedding anniversary, and I know that sounds silly, but we were together for quite a long time before we actually got married. So we have actually like earlier this year celebrated like our 15-year like relationship anniversary.
Wow.
So that's more of like a big deal than our wedding anniversary, which sounds really stupid.
No,
But
I think
No, it makes
I
sense.
feel the same.
Yeah.
Because my husband and I were together for like 6 years before we got married. So it's kind of like weird. It's like, yeah, we've been married a year. Yeah, but we've been together for 7 when it comes to our, you know what I mean? You're like,
Yeah.
no, I think I'll just...
I feel the need to have to like back it up. I'm like, yeah, we've been together for so long, even though we've only been married for this long. And it's just like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, totally. I got you. Cool. Wow. So, what else have you guys been doing? Atlanta, what have you been up to?
Just living in my parents' guest room. I don't have any wonderfully cute, quaint stories. I do have Animal Crossing to fill the void, so I've been playing that. Probably too much, but there's something so deeply soothing, and I'll just sit there and I'll play, fix up my island a little bit, and the game just like makes me smile. So I'm sitting there smiling to myself, and like my mom will pop in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm catching bugs." She's like, "You do know how old you are though, right?" Like, and I was like, "Well, I don't have much options right now." But yeah, I've been playing Animal Crossing. It's absolutely beautiful and sweet, and I love it. That's kind of it over here.
Do you guys have any watch recommendations? What have you been watching? Anything? Old or new?
We haven't actually been watching. I just kind of really got fatigued about watching TV. And it's just like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I obviously will, but I just don't. Oh, it's just like trying to find something to watch or like put on the TV in the afternoon. It's just so much like it's stressful now. So we've been watching The Great British Menu.
Ooh.
Which is fun. It's like top chefs competing to prepare a dish for this huge like banquet. So it's actually like Michelin star chefs from like really cool restaurants all around the country competing to do this, and it's good fun. But other than that, no, I haven't.
That sounds amazing though.
Yeah, it's really good.
I know what you mean. I think I told you guys because we had a little meeting off the record earlier this week, and I was saying like I was just struggling with like finding things to concentrate on TV because I'm just like I am so sick of watching television, which I never thought I'd say because I quite like binging my television when I have time. Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same. There's a new show that came out on Amazon Prime yesterday that already aired in the States called Little Fires Everywhere, I think.
Oh, not heard of it.
It's a book, and it's Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I've Joshua Jackson's in it too. Little Dawson's throwback. Yeah, so it's a book, like I said, and I started it, and it's pretty interesting so far. I watched a couple episodes, but yeah, I know exactly. I'm sort of just bored of it now.
Yeah, if anything, I've been working on my island, obviously, but I will also listen to a podcast, like an old Dateline that I don't remember. And it's like my soothing zone. I'm working on my island. I'm catching bugs. I'm listening to a Dateline episode. But yeah, I haven't really been watching anything, really.
Yeah, I feel you. So if you guys have any recommendations out there, maybe let us know. Oh, I've also been watching The Last Dance a little bit. I started that some too, because so many people said it was so good. And it's about Michael Jordan, his like this one of, I think it's his last season with the Bulls, and I don't know. I'm only on the first like couple episodes, but it's really nostalgic. Like the music is quality. It's like music from like the 90s. I like it, so I'm gonna stick with it eventually. But it's like quite inspiring. That's what everyone says. But I'm also in that mood of like I don't want to be inspired right now. Inspire me to do what? Like don't inspire me, okay? Save it, because I got nothing. I mean, where am I gonna go with all this inspiration? You know?
You have to do some hike training, Anna.
Yeah. God, I know we do, don't we? So
stressful. So we were booked on to do one of the Macmillan Mighty Hikes, which was supposed to take place in June, but they got cancelled. And then there was this sort of toing and froing about whether or not they were going to reschedule them. And they have now rescheduled it. we're doing the one in the Lake District, and it's been rescheduled for September.
Oh, dang.
And now it's like, great, now I have to prep, but we have to prep for like a 26-mile hike with like very little time. And also, I haven't been doing anything since March. I've literally been sitting down and eating hula hoops, and that is no word of a liar.
That's goals, though, by the way, on its own.
I mean, it's my own fault. So yeah, we're going to have to start prepping for that.
I've been running a lot. So I'm doing like this 100 kilometers, running 100 kilometers in May. So I'm up to 88 kilometers.
Oh, dang.
Today I did another 10K.
Oh, shit.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I'm almost there. I got 12K left for the month, which I will ideally smash that out in a couple of days. And so with time to spare. But then I'm like, great, what do I do for June now? Like
2,000 kilometers.
I know. Like, so I guess, but also I'm running, but that's not the same as walk training and hike training. Like, it's really do you know
different.
what I mean? So it's not the same. So I think I'm going to have to start really like now alternate, and I'm going to have to do some really start to walk. But fingers crossed, in June sometime, we may be allowed to have a social distance walk.
Yeah.
Like, fingers crossed, things keep going, you know.
That's what James said to me the other day. He was like, oh, I could just like drive you somewhere and drop you off and you could walk back.
There you
like,
go.
We'd be allowed to do that now. And it's like, that means I wouldn't have to get the train, which would be quite good. So I was just like, yeah, great, thanks. Just drop me in the middle of fucking nowhere and I'll walk back on it.
Essentially, yeah. You used to do that a lot. You would take the train and then walk back.
Yeah, I'd take a train like a couple of stops, like I say a couple of stops, like some stops down the line or up the line, depending on which way I wanted to go, and then walk back. So that's a really boring walk, but it's also just like plenty of miles in the legs.
But it just gets in the miles.
Yeah.
So.
And also that was premium podcast listening to time.
Yeah.
Oh, I
so
bet.
Like, oh, I love being on my own when it comes to like things like that. So like walking with like a podcast in, and it's quite like busy, so I'm not going to get murdered. So I did feel quite safe, but it was like the best time to listen to a podcast. Do
you ever though? I find myself sometimes, if I'm listening, like I've been listening while I run, and if it's particularly like not busy around, and if I'm what I'm listening to is a bit eerie, like sometimes I'm a little bit like, okay, I turn it down kind of low because like I feel like I want to be able to hear what's going on around me. Definitely, like I start to get a little paranoid.
I only when I run, I only wear one earbud.
Yeah.
Just because I've heard like horror stories of like what happens to women when they go running.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair point.
I'll turn it down real low so that I can like
hear the surroundings,
everything around me. Yeah, absolutely. That also brings me to our walk etiquette. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Right, so we're on this 26-mile walk. It's on the day. And I feel like it's totally acceptable because I'll tell you why I've asked this. Because Will thinks it's outrageous. So I know that 26 miles, I mean, how much walking is that? Like how many hours? 12?
So I did the South Coast Mighty Hike a couple of years ago, and it took me 10 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. It's a long time.
But it was really, really hot, and like the last bit is really, really tough because you go over the Seven Sisters Country Park, which is like 7 big hills. So yeah.
So basically, I'm sure there'll be time in there that we'll just be like, all right, we'll walk to each other, but let's put some earphones in and podcast listen.
Oh yeah, I don't want to talk to you for 11 hours.
Exactly. Okay, because it's really funny. Because
I like you, but my God.
I know, exactly. Thank you. All right.
It's not you. I just don't think I could talk to anyone for 11 hours.
I agree. Because if we go on a run or something or walk, and one time I brought my headphones and I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna just pop them in and yeah. And he's like, what are you doing? That's so rude. Like, he wants me to chat with him while we're like, I'm like, and he doesn't shut up either, because you think, he talks quite a lot, but he just still doesn't even stop when he's running.
Jeez.
I'm glad we're on the same page here. That's great.
Yeah. We'll have, like, some set times.
Yeah, set times of not speaking to one another. Alright, so true crime news today. I've got a couple of stories for you. Now, the first one is actually super breaking recent, as in yesterday. Alright, so the headline is, Man confesses to fatally stabbing his father on Zoom video conference call.
Oh, God.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this one because everyone is doing Zoom calls at the minute. And yeah, wow.
So many Zoom calls. Please make him stop.
I just keep my mouse like hovering over leave meeting, so I'm like, I gotta be the first one out of here.
Exactly. Okay, so everyone out there can sort of relate. Hopefully not this. This is incredibly disturbing. This article comes from The Guardian, and obviously, as always, we will link our sources on our website. A Long Island man suspected of fatally stabbing his father on a live Zoom call confessed to the caught-on-camera killing after police found him trying to wash blood off his body with Dr. Pepper, prosecutors said on Friday.
That's a waste of Dr. Pepper.
Yeah,
I love Dr. Pepper.
Is that a cleaning agent?
No. Ready? I'll tell you why he chose the Dr. Pepper. Thomas Scully Powers, 32, was arraigned via video and ordered to jail without bail after pleading not guilty to a murder charge in the attack on Long Island, New York on Thursday. So that's Thursday, so a couple of days ago. That left 72-year-old Dwight Powers nearly decapitated as horrified call participants scrambled to dial 911.
Did you say he was arraigned via video call?
Yes.
That's quite poetic, don't you think?
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. Oh my god.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
It's so true. District Attorney Tom Sini said Scully Powers told police he stabbed his father about 15 times and used several knives because the blades kept bending. I'm sorry, this is really gruesome, guys. I do apologize. An autopsy showed that Powers had multiple stab wounds to his back, neck, torso, and police found multiple knives at the scene. By the defendant's own admission, he brutally stabbed his own father repeatedly until he was certain that he was dead, Sini said, calling it a really shocking and disturbing case. Prosecutors say that Scully Powers attacked his father's around noon on Thursday at their Amityville apartment as the older man sat down for a Zoom video meeting, beating him before returning to the room with a knife. That prompted one of about 20 other people on the meeting to call 911.
Oh my god.
20 people were on that call. How horrifying is that? After an apparent attempt to clean up, although why bother? Because 20 people just saw what you did. Not really
20
sure.
witnesses. Yeah.
Scully Powers jumped out of a second-floor window and fled on foot as police officers arrived. Prosecutors said a mop and bucket were found in the bathroom, and a blood-saturated bedsheet was found in a garbage bag. So Scully Powers then ran to a deli, swiped several bottles of Dr. Pepper, and tried using the soda to wash blood off his body, prosecutors said. That's where the Dr. Pepper came in.
Oh, gosh.
God.
So, Amityville Village police apprehended Scully Powers within an hour of the killing and about a mile from the apartment. He was treated at a hospital for injuries from his jump. Because he jumped out of a second-story window, for goodness sake.
Just a quick question about stories, like first floor, second floor. Because I know they're different in North America, aren't
yes.
they?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm on... So we have like ground floor, first floor, second floor, whereas you have first floor, second floor, third floor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, it would be first floor here.
Still
So
quite a way though, isn't it?
It's
Like-
still out of a window that's not on the ground floor. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I always found that really weird. So in North America, we say, wait, do you in Canada as well?
Yeah, it's the same ground. We start with ground floor.
Oh, you do? And then first floor?
Yeah.
Or are you so we're first floor.
Oh, no,
like
wait.
Your first floor is the ground floor.
Yeah. First floor is
No.
the ground floor.
Yeah, we're first. God, I don't even
floors.
remember anymore. I think we're first floor.
Yeah, we're first floor, ground floor, then second story. So it's like a 2-story house is like the
Yes.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, okay. Yeah.
Because I was like, if you jumped out of, in the UK, if you jumped out of like a second story window,
That would be like the third floor.
you would probably like fucking die.
Yeah, that would
Like, you
be
would
it.
really,
Most
really hate it.
You wouldn't be
you wouldn't be
running.
running to a deli.
You wouldn't be
No.
running. No. Yeah, fair one. I'm glad you pointed
Yeah.
that out because, yeah.
I know sometimes I just get really confused when I read things. I'm like, oh my god, he jumped so high.
I know.
Like, and it's just like, no, he didn't.
No, you break both of your legs.
Yeah. Yikes. So I hope no one has as bad of a Zoom meeting as that guy. That's terrible. So I'm going to guess it's a very new thing that's just happened, a new crime. So I'm going to guess perhaps there was some sort of mental health or drug abuse going on with the son. I don't know. It just seems like completely...
Why wouldn't you just wait? Like, either before
So
the
you're
call
not
or
on Zoom.
after the call. Like, why you gotta do it in front of
Exactly.
an audience?
But then why bother to even cleaning it up if they've, like, saw you? That's the whole thing I don't get. Yeah. So, like, he was trying to clean it up. But why?
Yeah, something else going on there, isn't there?
Yeah. So anyway, if I hear anything else, see anything else about that, I will update. Right. My second story today. Now, in the mornings, I don't really watch the news in the mornings. I used to watch it in the mornings, but I don't really watch actual, like, cable news anymore because at the moment, all it is about is the coronavirus, which I'm done. I'm spent. Don't want to hear about it right now. Like, that much intense news all the time. Don't want it. But I do read, like, my news apps and stuff, like, while I have my coffee in the morning and just, like, read about stuff. And I came across this one it's a really good article, and I'm going to link the article too. It's New York Times, and it's about a case that from Norway, that I never heard of and, like, didn't know what was going on. But it's very interesting. I personally really love, like, a Scandi noir TV shows. Love, like, The Killing, The Bridge, Trapped, all of them, all the classics. Like, love it. They're really good at that, like, genre of, like, quite the gritty, like, police procedural. Anyway, so I will start. So in Fjellhammer, Norway, sorry if I did not pronounce that right at all. Her last phone call was at 9:14 a.m., around the time that her husband, one of the richest men in Norway, passed under the security cameras of the gates of his energy and property investment company. Not much later that morning, more than 18 months ago, Anne Elizabeth Hagen, 68, vanished from her house in suburban Oslo. When the police in Norway investigated, they found only a plastic strip, a shoe print, and some bloodstains, as well as Miss Hagen's cell phone. The couple's new puppy was locked in the bathroom, and on their bed lay a poorly written but highly detailed ransom note asking for $9.5 million to be paid in an obscure cryptocurrency called Monero, which never heard of that. Mm-mm. At first, the police treated the matter as a straightforward kidnapping and ransom case, and they asked the Norwegian news media to remain silent. After a few months, however, the police became increasingly convinced that the clues they found in the house had been planted to mislead them and hide the fact that Miss Hagen was actually murdered. That growing conviction led the police in January of 2019 to let the public in on their secret, in hope that someone, somewhere, could shed light on what happened. From the moment it was revealed, Miss Hagen's disappearance and possible killing has gripped the Scandinavian nation, where murders are rare and crime is mainly a subject for fictional TV series and books, which is true. They don't have a particularly high crime rate. So we've never seen anything like this in Norway, said Leif Lair, a former Oslo police chief known for recovering, how do you say it? Munch? Scream. You know the painting Scream?
Edward Munch.
Munch. It is Munch. Okay. After the painting was stolen in 1994. So he's the one that, like, helped recover that. I follow every twist and turn, every development. On the day of the disappearance, on October 31st, 2018, Mr. Hagen returned home from work around lunchtime to find the ransom note. His wife's cell phone showed an unanswered call by an electrician at 9:48, placing the time of her disappearance sometime before then. The police said employers have confirmed that Mr. Hagen was at work at the time at his office complex 8 minutes from the house. So he's got an alibi. Mr. Hagen, who's worth around $190 million, made his fortune as a founder of a utility company, which serves all of Scandinavia. He also owns a large ski resort and other properties. It emerged early on that in 1993, the couple, who have 3 grown children, changed their marriage contract, public records show, to stipulate that in the event of a divorce, she would only get the furniture, a car, and the right to keep the land she inherited from her parents. Which is...
That's interesting.
I know.
That's...
terrible.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Mm-hmm. And he's worth $190 million.
Like, you can't give her $10 million. Sure.
Yeah. And sure, they'd been married for... like, with 3 grown children. Like, that's insane.
Oh, cool.
At first, that seemed to eliminate financial considerations as a motive for Mr. Hagen to kill his wife, but legal experts quickly raised doubts that the agreement would even hold up in court. Mr. Hagen's lawyer said that the couple had not been experiencing any marital turbulence at the time she vanished. Throughout the marriage, there have been moments that have been tough, he said, but they didn't have any recent problems. Mr. Hagen, who denies any involvement in his wife's disappearance, suggested to the police that he might have made enemies who might want to hurt him by hurting his wife, his lawyer said. If he had such enemies, though, it was certainly casual about security arrangements. The family's modest house, and I'm going to post a picture of this because the house just looks normal. Like, it's not fancy. It's like a really small house. There's no security cameras, no nothing. It's just like an average.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's another really interesting thing. Yeah, right? So the family's modest house on a cul-de-sac outside Oslo has no security cameras, and visitors can walk straight up to the door. Their neighbor said he and Mr. Hagen built their houses in 1980.
Oh.
So I think that's lovely. Maybe that's why they continue to live there, I guess. But it was just it's when you're worth a lot and like that much of a, big of a businessman, it's just shocking you wouldn't have any sort of security or
any
anything.
Protection. Yeah.
Or
I suppose if you do live in a really safe country, maybe you think you don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah, fair one. Mr. Hagen's address and private phone number can easily be found online. Though he is something of a technophobe, he never goes near a computer, is unable to write an email, and keeps the access code of his old Nokia phone scratched on the screen, his lawyer says.
Oh my god.
Also, how are they allowing this guy? I know. Oh my god. How does this work? In the weeks following the crime, well before Mr. Hagen became a suspect, the family and the police had conducted negotiations with the kidnappers, what they thought were the kidnappers, communicating through small sales of bitcoins. Different payments corresponded with different requests and answers. After the initial contact, though, weeks would go by without anyone hearing from the supposed abductors. Finally, frustrated by the slow pace of the investigation, the police decided to permit news outlets to report that they knew. Still, the investigation went nowhere. In July, Mr. Hagen transferred a little over $1 million to the supposed kidnappers on the promise that they would provide proof that Miss Hagen was still alive, but none was forthcoming. The investigation is being led by a fourth-generation police officer. Like, this is like a TV show. Tommy Brosk. He presided over a team of 200 working on this case.
Wow.
Mr. Brosk, 48, who in his free time plays drums in a jazz band.
Nice.
The Whereabouts.
No.
I know. I mean, come on. Had made a name for himself policing Norway's wild border with Sweden, squaring off with drug smugglers and a motorcycle gang, the Bandidos. But he said last year that this was the most demanding case he had ever investigated, all in the glare of a nation's obsession with the mystery. So, working methodically, despite the pressures, Mr. Broke started eliminating potential scenarios. Suicide was ruled out, as was Miss Hagen's just deciding to flee. In either case, the police reasoned why would she leave such a complex ransom note and have someone pose as a kidnapper and negotiate with the police and the family. Finally, late last month, as Mr. Hagen was driving to work, several police cars forced him off the road and officers arrested him. After 18 months of investigation, the police have come to a point where they believe there is sufficient cause to suspect Tom Hagen of the homicide or complicity in the homicide of Anne Elizabeth Hagen, Mr. Bro said in a statement. We now believe there was no abduction and that there was never any genuine negotiations, he said in the statement. In other words, we believe that there was a clear and well-planned attempt at misleading the police. A local court confirmed the arrest warrant, placing Mr. Hagen in custody, but then the Supreme Court ordered his release. There were no reasonable grounds for suspicion of my client, 2 out of 3 judges ruled. The police tried to rearrest Mr. Hagen the same day, May 8th, but failed, and then they came up with a new suspect, a cryptocurrency expert who has not been identified in the Norwegian news media. He was released 2 days later, but has been charged with assistance to kidnapping. So for now, the investigation is stalled. They think it's the husband. Their defense is saying they only have tunnel vision. They just think it's the husband. It's not that. But at the moment, she's still not been found, and they still don't know what's happened to her.
That's crazy.
If it was him, though, say he did kill her, if he's that much of a technophobe, then he would need an accomplice, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Unless he's just been hiding this, skill.
Secret talent, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought I read this whole, I've sort of condensed the article that I read, but it was such a well written and like really interesting article that like it, went on to like elaborate more. And obviously we had I'd never heard of this case, but it was obviously one that is like gripping Norway, and they're all really involved in it. And it's just it sounds like almost like something out of it could be a TV show or a movie.
It sounds very like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like something's happening in the background, and like very interesting.
So I'm gonna keep an eye out for that if they ever do actually. But it doesn't sound like, not that they would be forthcoming necessarily in the media with their evidence, but they don't seem to have a whole lot of evidence that he actually is involved. It seems like they just have lack of evidence, and therefore they just obviously motive and all that, and we know it's usually the husband. So, don't know.
Yeah, especially because she went missing so long ago as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So this week for one of our reviews, we are looking at the Kim Kardashian West, The Justice Project. So this is a new documentary, and I personally watched it on HeyYou. It was the only place I could find it, which is like an Amazon Prime channel. Side tip, you can sign up for a free trial, watch it, and then cancel immediately so you can watch it for free. I'll try to keep my opinions to the end. But I wouldn't bother. Anyway, so we start off with...
That's so good.
We start off with part 1. How long is too long? So we learn of a story of a woman named Alice Johnson who was a phone mule, which I didn't know was a thing, but she would connect drug dealers with each other, basically using her specific phone. She talks about how she was desperate for money. She was trying to support her kids on her own. She had no criminal history. She never even touched drugs. But when she was caught, arrested, charged, she was convicted to life plus 25 years, which is the same amount of time as the Unabomber, which blew my mind. So basically, Kim K sees it on Twitter, actually, and starts reading up on it and is outraged and is basically like, I want to do something about this. She starts posting like petitions and things. She meets with lawyers, her own lawyers, the woman's lawyers. They make up this like new defense team, and she actually delivers a speech at the White House on behalf of this woman. The sentence was way too extreme, like show some mercy sort of thing. So after spending 22 years in prison, Alice Johnson is granted clemency, which is she was given mercy and her sentence was changed, so she was released from prison. I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like to play such a minuscule role. I think the idea was that the prosecution made it seem like she was the kingpin, like she was the leader and whatever, but even still, it's just shocking.
It's a non-violent crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an insane amount of time to spend for a non-violent crime.
And the rest of this documentary showcases different people who have been arrested for various different crimes, different stories, and the charges are quite extreme, or at least the sentencing is quite extreme. And it talks about how there was one quote that said, every day about 12 people in the U.S. are sent to prison. It's this sort of injustice, however you want to phrase that Kim decides that she wants to get involved in justice reform and the justice system reform. She talks about that she's like studying for the bar, but I don't know.
Yeah, she's going to law school.
How can you go to law school and study for the bar if you don't have a fucking degree?
It's a little bit foggy.
She's working on it. I'll tell you. Okay, I know some other info.
We'll get updates. So some of the other cases are about a woman who was sexually abused by a family member, and she ends up killing that person, and she gets a huge sentence. It talks a lot about rehabilitation and how we should really work to educate and rehabilitate and let people have a second chance, because some people, there's one man who was arrested at 16 for murder. So it was quite a serious charge and a crime. But they talk about how, he was 16 and he's done so much to improve himself and to help others? And should we not consider that in terms of giving people a second chance? So we talk a lot about looking at people's backstories, rehabilitation. Does the punishment actually fit what the crime was? All that kind of stuff. I stopped making notes at that point. So my final thoughts that I wrote down were, I thought the quality of this was dog shit. I thought the message was worthy. Okay, it's a good message. The injustice that is happening in the justice system is unbelievable, and it's very upsetting. But I thought Kim K's voice was like urging me to walk into traffic. So it's pros and cons.
Sorry.
But I do really like that she talks a lot about how people make mistakes, and largely that's due to previous trauma that was never dealt with, or that they never were given proper therapy or education or all that kind of stuff, and they make these really horrific mistakes. And should we not help rehabilitate and educate and give people a second chance? So I really thought the message was really great. Overall, I hated it. What were your thoughts?
Anna, do you want to go first?
Not really, because I think I have the unpopular opinion.
I'm probably middle ground for you then.
Yeah. No, for me, like, I'm not a Kardashian hater. Like, good for them. Like, businesswomen, like, they have freaking huge empire businesses, clothing, and all the stuff they do. I don't know. I'm not, like, a Kardashian hater. Anyway, I just thought, okay, it maybe isn't the most gripping series, but her message was good. I thought, good for her. Like, it's a really huge problem in the US, and she's using her platform to do something really good. And so, like, I feel like I don't want to hate on her, because I feel like actually, everyone gave her so much shit for years because people are like, oh, she didn't do anything. She's famous for nothing. Well, she's trying to really do something that matters. And so I'm like, okay. So I want to try to be, like, nice about it, because I didn't, to be honest, you're going to laugh. I can't believe I'm admitting this to you. But I watched that special. You're right. It wasn't my favorite thing. It wasn't, I don't know what it was. It just not, the stories were very interesting and important. Yeah, it was, anyway. So I've never ever watched the show, Keeping Up. I don't like that sort of programs, like your reality, I guess you call it, if it's that. So obviously, I had to get the Hey You thing, too. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to watch a couple episodes just to see, like, I've never watched the show before. So I put it on. I watched a few. And actually, throughout their series, this latest series that they have on there, because it was on the Hey You thing, like, actually, there's about 3 more cases she brings up on her actual series, because she'll, like, literally stop at a photo shoot and talk to, like, a prisoner. And she had a guy was meant to be executed within a matter of, like, hours, and managed to convince the governor to put a stay to the execution, because he was he was going through an innocence where they were testing DNA to see if he was even innocent or not. So she, you know what I mean? Like, so I kind of felt like I don't want to hate on her, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, the message is good, but maybe, like, meh.
Definitely. I think she's got a bit of her personality is a bit odd, in that I don't really think she has one. She comes across as being just a little bit vapid, and that's purely from just crap that I've seen. I don't follow her on Instagram. I don't watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That's just, what other people have really said about her. But she is using this really high profile that she does have to highlight this huge issue of mass incarceration in the US. And I think she did show a little bit of personal growth in the documentary. Remember, there's one point where she's talking about how she was pretty judgmental towards people who had committed violent crime. And then she changed her opinion after talking to the people who've been committed of violent crimes. And I think she is genuinely invested in the topic, and she does want to use her influence to assist the lawyers. I was concerned that her involvement was going to overshadow the hard work that the lawyers do. And I think there's one point where there's someone's going, I just thank Kim for this. And it's just like, your lawyer's done it with Kim Kardashian's high profile drawing attention to your case. I think it highlights issues of punishment versus rehabilitation, racial bias, which is a huge issue in the criminal justice system, lack of resources and support for those that are vulnerable in society. But her voice just fucked me off. And like, just put on a goddamn fucking suit when you're going into a prison to talk to these people, or like when you're meeting with lawyers and she's wearing like this little vest top with her fucking tits hanging out, and it's like that doesn't happen in a law firm. It doesn't happen. It looks unprofessional, and maybe that's just like her way of doing things. And I just felt it was a bit like, I can come in, I can do what I want because I'm Kim Kardashian West.
This is the thing. When I watched a couple of episodes, it's like she went into like a prison and she was in a suit, and she went in to do some other stuff where she's like on the foot. She's trying to talk to the governor, and she's getting the governor, and she helped convince, like trying to bring attention to it. And she was wearing a suit. It was really weird. And this is when she talked about there was more elaborate. It's like, I wish they had put that stuff into, because it would have actually given her a lot more credibility. Like, not credibility, but
gravitas.
Like, yes, you know what I'm trying to say? Because I watched that bit. And I was like, oh, okay, this actually, like, brings a lot more to what she's doing. And it's showing, like, you know, she actually is really invested in it and doing things that are good. And, like, yeah, her, you know, her lawyers are doing, I'm going to say, doing a lot of course, they're doing all the, you know, all the work. They are the ones that know the law and know what to do. But it is good. I totally agree with you. Put a suit jacket on. Like, yeah,
I'm not like,
put your tits away.
I'm not ragging on her in that she can't do what she's doing because of what she's wearing. In no way am I saying that. I just feel like it was just an odd thing to watch for something so serious.
Yeah.
You almost wanted her to take it more seriously.
Yeah,
it did. Not that she isn't, but it didn't in certain ways. And like
it didn't come across. It didn't come across.
I'm with you there, and I think it was only because I watched those few episodes, because I never really. I wanted a little bit more like background with it, because like I didn't want to like. I don't know. I never watched the show. I didn't really have an opinion on them. I think, oh, whatever, more power to them. They're doing what they're doing, and like fine. And she was much more. Came across so much more professional in her regular show. I don't know.
Do you think that they did that on purpose though?
I don't know.
I just thought the documentary, from strictly a documentary point of view, was garbage. Like, it looked garbage. The interviews were garbage. The cutscenes were garbage. So that, like, for me, like, it really took away. Because you think, okay, you know, power to her for doing something with her status. Because there's lots of people who don't do anything, all right? So she's doing something, like, fair play. The quality of the thing overall was, I really hated it. But I know what you're saying, Hannah, like, in terms of personality was a bit strange. And I wish I could have, like, screen grabbed it. Because there's this one bit where she's sat down talking to an inmate. And it's so awkward. It's like an alien talking to somebody. Like, it's like this awkward pause. Like, she didn't know how to, like, I don't know. It was just...
Didn't know how to react.
Was that the guy that she was talking to?
I think so.
And he was saying about how his mom murdered his dad. And she kind of did a weird pause. And then was like, oh, yes, that's...
And I was just like,
I don't know.
I want to leave my body. Like, it was...
I don't know if that was just really bad editing or...
Could be.
Or she didn't know what to say. You know, you're just like,
there's one part where she was interviewing the girl who was 15 when she murdered the person who'd been sexually abusing her. She ran away, and then she had a pimp.
Yeah, she was sex trafficked and everything,
and she murdered him, even though she didn't actually kill him herself. Someone else shot him, but they thought that she was involved. They thought it was premeditated. And there's one point where they're like, when you're interviewing someone, I kind of want to see that person telling their story and like what they're going on for. But with it kind of like the camera just like panned to like Kim Kardashian's face, and it was like, I don't want to look at her face. And she's doing this like weird like kind of squinting thing with her eyes, and it was just strange. Yeah, and I couldn't get past it. I'm sorry.
I'd almost maybe enjoy it more if it was produced by somebody else, please God, but maybe took the perspective of the group that she's working with. I think it's like God, I didn't write down the name. It was like Cut 50 or something like that, which was like a group of lawyers that were working on getting people out of prison. And I would have been very interested to see the work that they're doing, and then just like a little bit, oh, by the way, Kim Kardashian helps us and this is what she does, but also like this is the work that we're doing. Like maybe that angle would have been more appealing. What would you guys rate it out of 5?
I'll give it a 3. You know, we do need more of a spotlight on people having the right to a fair trial and due process and appeals and judicial reviews and rehabilitation and clemency and mitigating evidence being made available and actually being presented. So I thought it was good to highlight these issues, and she did an okay job at doing that, and she's using that high profile. So 3, but stylistically, like the 1.
Yeah, I think I would do the same. I think, it wasn't well
style over substance.
Produced. It wasn't well produced. Let's face it. It wasn't. I think I was trying to make sure I didn't want to shit on another woman just for who she is in the media. Like, she's trying to do something good. So I think that's why I was trying to like defend a little bit, or trying to explain myself what I thought. Because I'm thinking, good, use this for a good thing. You know, good. So the message wise, I would give it a 4. What they're trying to say, they just needed to find someone who knew how to make a documentary. Anybody who knew how to make a documentary
100%
at all. They needed that. Because she was not able to do that on her own. Does that make sense? Because like it didn't come across that well. But yeah. So I would still say watch it because it's important, but just know that it's not going to be the best one you've ever watched as far as like style.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing. Really important message. Props to her for doing something meaningful. It looked horrific and I wanted to turn it off. So I think I'd probably lean closer to like a 2, because it's just enjoyment wise was in the toilet. So I guess anyway, interesting stories, that's for sure though.
So the second review we have for you this week is The Dating Game Killer, a podcast by Wondery on the story of Rodney Alcala. Alcala?
I say it different every time.
Who knows? Have you both listened to it?
Not the whole thing, because I couldn't, because ouch.
I got to the last episode and I thought, you know what? My life is too short to spend another 55 minutes on another episode.
We're having a bad run anyway.
We are. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but here's the gist. It's a 6-part podcast which tells us about the life and terrible crimes of Rodney Alcala. Alcala was a serial killer who was convicted for the murders of 5 women. He's currently 76 years old and on death row. He committed these murders between 1977 and 1979, and he also has a string of other offences as well. So the podcast goes through these, and whilst a lot of people might think that this is kind of superfluous information, like it's just filler, I think it helped to build a good mental image of the type of person that Alcala was. So the reason why Alcala is notorious is due to his appearance on The Dating Game in 1978. He'd already probably killed 2 women at this point. The Dating Game is a matchmaking style program with a bachelorette who would ask questions to 3 bachelors hidden from view, and based on their answers, she would pick one to go on a date with. We have a similar program in the UK called Blind Date, which was awful. The video of Alcala's appearance is actually on YouTube, and he was introduced on the show as a quote successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the darkroom at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, you might find him skydiving or motorcycling. End quote. His acceptance on the show is pretty controversial. Any kind of background check would have highlighted the fact that he was at that point a registered sex offender and a convicted rapist. So he actually wins the game, and he's picked by Cheryl Bradshaw, and the host, Jim Lang, tells them that their date will be a tennis lessons and then a trip to Magic Mountain. However, after meeting backstage, Cheryl just nopes out, and she refuses to go on this date with him because she's like, that's a creepy ass bitch.
Yeah, God bless.
So Alcala was a photographer, and they found thousands of sexually explicit photographs that they suspect he took. Police in 2010 actually released 120 of the images in the hopes that they could identify some of the women that are in the photos, because they're convinced that he probably did kill more. and they think that maybe women in the photos could be his victims. The podcast paints kind of like a good picture of what it was like in the late 70s. This was the time of Bundy, the Hillside Strangler's son of Sam, and he was interviewed by the task force searching for the Hillside Strangler. I thought the podcast was okay. Akala's one of the biggest serial killers, and I didn't really know a huge amount about him. The podcast does okay at explaining everything about him, his life, his crimes, and how he fooled psychiatrists and employers. I think it's a bit descriptive in places. It kind of waffles on. And I found some parts of it pretty grisly. So if you're not, like, into that kind of thing, then I'd have the skip button, like, pretty close to hand. What did you guys think?
I thought, similar to you, I know that's one of the biggest cases, but I actually didn't know a whole lot of details. And, like, he's on the dating game and stuff, but I really didn't know a lot of the details. One of the things that I found, though, maybe because I wasn't paying enough attention, but it almost felt like it would go forward in time and then talk about something that already happened, and then kind of like this, and they're talking about like in the years, like in 78 he was here, and I was like, wait, was 78 when he did that thing, or has that not happened yet? Like I wasn't really paying enough attention to like follow the flow of their stories and stuff, but I did find that they really described it. Like it was almost like a separate narrative that they did. Like they'd set the scene of him, kidnapping one of the young women, and they like describe, the way they smiled and what they thought and how they felt and like all that kind of stuff. So on one hand, that was really interesting because it really did feel like it set the scene for what it was like in the 70s and the attitudes in these certain situations. But on the other hand, it just felt like it was way too much. Like it felt like they were just describing, Alcala walked up the pavement with confidence, his bell bottoms blowing in the breeze, like stuff like really specific.
Yeah,
that is definitely not an example, but it could have been. Like that's what it sounded like.
That sounded like a direct quote.
Yeah. It was a bit much, and I ended up not finishing it because it was just a little bit too like dragged on for me.
Yeah, I agree with all of the above. It was just it wasn't enough to keep me that interested, and it just waffled on. I was with you on that. It jumped around, and because they hadn't got me like really invested in it, that I just was kind of like, wait, what? The back and forth. To be honest, it's just like, oh, girl, it wasn't an interesting story. It was just another fucking asshole. But you know what I mean? You're like, do you know what I mean? You're just like, I know, it's just another, I tend to not find serial killer stories very interesting anyway. I tend to prefer crimes or investigations into how they catch somebody, like how that interests me. Like I want to know how you caught them from this, that, and that. I think some of my favorite podcasts are because it's more of that intricate story. I don't really like need to hear about this guy's life.
Yeah, I don't want to read his diary. Yeah,
I don't want to read his diary. Does that make sense? But that's my personal preference. That some people are really more into that, whereas me, my interest is other places. So.
Yeah, I mean, the other things I found really odd about it was the constant adverts for Best Fiends.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. What was that? They were so badly placed, and it wasn't a great sponsor for the show. Like, it wasn't... I don't think it was very on brand.
No.
At all. Oh, there were so many.
Like you were saying before, the podcast is dark. Like, it talks about some really heavy... explicit content, and then all of a sudden you'd cut to this ad that didn't really make sense. You're like, this was not thought out properly.
No, and then also they had like the two narrators, which I found confusing because I kind of listened to a couple of episodes and I put it down to do something better with my time, and then when I picked it back up I was like, who is this? Did I click on the right episode? Did I I feel like you could have listened to any of those episodes in any order and it would still be like the timeline probably would have put itself back in fucking order as well. And it's like, I didn't get it.
I didn't think they needed two narrators. I don't know why they had to. I was like, why? What?
Yeah. So rating-wise, what are we going to go for?
I guess if you really want to, like, learn about him, sure. Maybe, I don't know. 1.5. There you go.
Whoa. I don't know. What do you think?
I'd give it a 2. I'm gonna be generous. Give it a 2 because it does. I mean, it does just explain the crimes and it does really set the scene. It's very like atmospheric, kind of, but not very good.
Cool. I think I'd go for I put just about scraped to 2.5. Just about. I'm at 2.3. You know. Yeah. I'm trying to make it a better average considering we've just slated 2 things in a row.
Well, yeah. I don't know what's wrong with us these last things. Pretty much we hate anything we watch and listen to at the moment.
We're going to find something that we think's really good.
We're going to find something, guys.
We're going to get there.
Someday.
Unless someone wants to recommend something that they really, really love.
Please.
We'll try our best. Please recommend us some things.
Weird Crime Time.
So for Weird Crime Time, we are in Kent, of all places. I saw this pop up and I thought, yes, please, bookmark that. So the story goes that armed police and helicopter called after a big cat spotted close to Sevenoaks. So apparently the police were called, oh, this is bad, I don't know how to pronounce this, to Moat Road in Ightham near Sevenoaks. Why would you name a place that? I don't know how to say that.
Sorry, spell it.
Ightham.
Oh, I like item.
Ightham. Okay. So police were called to this village that I can't pronounce near Sevenoaks, searched the area because apparently nearby walkers saw what they thought was a big cat. Fucking idiots saw a big cat in the woods. And they
like,
literally...
Was he just chubby or like was it like a tiger?
It was a big boy.
Is it Carol Baskin?
So they had 10 armed police and a helicopter called, like legit searching for this big cat that walkers spotted while, on their hike. And it turns out that this grandmother is a sculptress and she had sculpted this tiger that sits in her back garden, and I guess the walkers saw it like through the trees, saw a sculpture that she had done, called the police. They like almost raid her house basically, and she's like, I'm really sorry, it's not a big cat, I've in fact just made it, real sorry. Can you imagine getting helicopter and police to your house because of a statue in your backyard?
I just can't go over it. I thought it was like actually going to be someone just had a really fat ginger cat.
Yeah, no, so did I. That's where I thought it was going.
Because I've seen like every like big cat sighting that you get in the UK, it always turns out to just be like a Labrador or someone's just got a big cat, like an actual just like a really fat tabby cat, and it's never a leopard or anything fun.
Yeah.
Amazing, a sculpture statue. I love it.
Was she like on acid during her walk? Like, and then she's like, what?
I'm gonna eat some mushrooms and go for a hike.
I would lie. Do you know, if I realized that it was a statue, I would just lie. I'm sorry. I would just be like, yep. No, huge. It's huge. Huge tiger. Keep looking. Sorry.
So next time you see a tiger in Kent, maybe take a second look before you call the police, because it might just be a sculpture.
That is amazing.
I love that. It's a proper Kent thing.
All right, I think that's all we have for today. Please check out our website, murderfriends.com. You can see all of our sources there. Send us an email, murderfriendspod@gmail.com. Love getting your emails, any suggestions and interesting stories you bring to us, especially if you have any good recommendations at the moment, because apparently we can't find anything to watch or listen to. Instagram, murderfriendspod, and Twitter, murderfriendspd. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.